Hi, I'm Lucas,
And I'm Brian.
and this is the Quacks Podcast.
So what's up with you, dude?
Well, I worked today. Nothing much. I
You're
always
about
say
to
that.
go toast this morning.
Yeah.
Medium brown.
I got back from a wedding. Oh, I think I talked about that last week. Went to a wedding in Minnesota. That was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Really beautiful out there. But yeah, dude, I've just been working a lot. I mean, the snowbirds are coming back, and so getting into stores and doing what I got to do.
What you got to do.
Yeah, how about you?
Same.
Same. Cool, man.
Yeah, man.
So this week I want to talk about some antibiotics that are pretty rough. But I was wondering first if you had any stories you wanted to share. Maybe we could throw in a story. I don't know.
There's been a lot of people coming in with into the store with, which frightens me because we talked about colonoscopies a couple weeks back.
Yep.
And there's been an influx of people. I don't know if it's like you get that car and now you see everybody's driving it type deal, but people coming in with family members or themselves that are dealing with rectal cancer.
Okay.
And was actually talking to a woman today whose mother was diagnosed with rectal cancer, but they went in and did the biopsies, and they caused such problem with these biopsies and prolific. I don't even
They pierced his colon?
perforated and all this different.
Really?
Hers.
Oh.
And it's so bad that the doctor can't even perform an exam now. It's the complications are terrible, but basically it was like this shitstorm of problems. No pun.
No pun.
Oh man, I did not. Okay, so anyways, it's just a problem, but I just cannot stress enough just taking precautions now about what you eat. Largely some of these processed foods that are harder for us to break down, and our water supply, and some of these things that we're ingesting that they're all going. Even these mainstream doctors are like, stay away from this and stay away from these and hormone-laden foods. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's going mainstream, because I've always just heard treat the symptom, not the root of the issue. So it's kind of interesting to see these medical doctors coming around prescribing or recommending CBD, but pushing them this way too, because she was in there for curcumin.
Which is an extract of turmeric that's
Right.
Can you say anti-inflammatory? It lowers inflammatory factors.
It supports natural inflammatory reactions in the body.
There you go. That's how you say it.
That's been something that's popping up. The curcumin for dealing with the anal issues or rectal issues or colon issues.
Yeah.
All of the above, because I've seen people coming in for all of that.
All right.
So that's been a
Interesting,
trend.
man.
So I just wanted to bring that up, that start taking it now before you have an issue later.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I wanted to touch this week on a certain class of antibiotics that are pretty widely prescribed, but they've caused untold damage in a lot of different people.
Yep.
I'm talking about fluoroquinolones. Have you ever heard of fluoroquinolones?
I have not.
No. Okay. So if you've been in the natural industry for a while, you've probably heard about these.
Is that a dig at me? Newbie. Hey, noob. If you've been here, noob.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't heard a customer come in, because I remember when I worked at that health food store, there were some customers who'd come in and talk about it. So,
Well, that's the thing. I don't really listen to them.
okay, good call. That could be a good approach.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just not good with those pharma names.
So the most common ones you've probably heard of, ciprofloxacin. It's also called Cipro, Levaquin, Avalox, Floxin, and probably norfloxacin. Those are probably the most common ones.
I've heard all of those.
Yeah. So the common nomenclature in all those is they have flox in their nature. In fact, many of the support groups for people who've been injured from these go by some type of flox name, like you've been floxed, or Floxy Hope, something like that.
Got floxed up.
This class of antibiotics, it originated from quinolones, which were used in the 70s for things like urinary tract infections. And scientists found that they added a fluorine, atom or whatever to quinolones, made them much better at penetrating tissues and gave them this broad antibacterial effect against different types of bacteria.
Okay.
So Cipro came out in 1987 and is probably, along with Levaquin, the most prescribed fluoroquinolone. And there's something around 30 fluoroquinolones that were created, but they've all been removed from the market except for 6, or they're really severely restricted in their use. So doctors really love these antibiotics for several reasons. Like I mentioned, they penetrate tissues very well. They absorb very well for an oral antibiotic. There's certain infections that you can take oral antibiotics for, but these antibiotics, they won't necessarily get to the infected tissue. Cipro, on the other hand, it penetrates tissue so well that it's like getting an IV of antibiotics. So say you have like an infection, I don't know, of like a prostate or some tissue that only certain antibiotics reach. Instead of getting an IV of antibiotics, you could get Cipro tablets and go home. So it's much more convenient.
So it helps the absorption, the Cipro, which means that it could also help penetrate negative compounds as well into the system.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help other things absorb. Itself.
That's what I'm saying.
Itself absorbs well.
Right. But there could be negative properties within the Cipro itself that are also being penetrating very deep. Is that
correct? So yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah, that is correct. That's kind of how to think of it. The original quinolones didn't penetrate that well, but these penetrate very, very well. So
good and bad.
Yeah, that's good, because if you have an infection, it's really deep somewhere,
totally,
then it's going to be able to get there. But exactly. Okay. Good and bad. So Cipro, it also has a really wide range of infections that it works against. It's basically a Swiss Army knife. I actually remember when I was traveling a lot with my friends, I talked to several fellow travelers who carried Cipro with them all the time, because they would get sick or, and it would handle basically most of what they were dealing with.
I remember that too with travelers. They had Cipro.
Really?
It was like Pez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing to carry. So all these factors, the deep penetration, the broad spectrum effectiveness, the ease of use compared to IV antibiotics, it really makes Cipro and other fluoroquinolones kind of like the go-to prescription for a lot of doctors. So according to the FDA, these antibiotics are some of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics on the market. In 2011, there were 23.1 million unique patients who received a prescription of fluoroquinolones. And in 2015, there were something like 32 million prescriptions of fluoroquinolones. And this is in the U.S. alone.
Okay.
So prescriptions for these are pretty common, and it looks like they're going up. Although I was at an event this weekend, a fundraiser for the Diabetes Association.
Whoa.
Yes, it was quite the affair. I was there in my black tie and yada,
That's
yada.
awesome.
It was fun. I got 5th in the poker tournament, which was pretty sweet.
That's great.
Yeah, I got 5 raffle tickets, but I didn't win anything. But, it was good.
You got the tickets. You were there.
I was there. So anyway, I was at this event, and I have this friend who's a 4th-year medical student, and he was saying he worked for another doctor, or he interned for another doctor or whatever. And this doctor, who was like the head honcho of, I don't know if it was a hospital or a clinic or whatever, was like, nobody better prescribe fluoroquinolones. If you do, you're fired. Like he was like so adamant against it. So the prescriptions seem to be going up, but at the same time, there are doctors waking up to it and not doing it. So
that's good.
Yeah. So the question is, what's the problem? What makes these things so bad? We've kind of talked about why they're great. And it's basically, it's about risk and reward, really. So I focus on, we try and talk about tips and information that are low risk while potentially offering a high reward. Right.
So it's that old principle: with every action, there is an equal or opposite reaction.
Correct.
Oh, boy.
And we want the small downside compared to the large upside.
Right.
And so Cipro and the other fluoroquinolones, and I'm probably going to use those interchangeably because Cipro is so common, they're very poor risk versus reward proposition. So Cipro is what's called an anti-neoplastic agent, meaning it works very similarly to how chemotherapy works. So it disrupts cellular DNA and it destroys cells. Against bacteria, this works great. But it also apparently can work against our own cells sometimes. And according to clinical trials, anywhere between 5 to 20% of people who take these drugs get adverse reactions.
I mean, that's where the word antibiotic really comes in. It's antibody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it earns its name, something like this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. That's
now,
right.
Let me get off my soapbox and let you continue.
No, it's right. And sometimes it's like, that's against the biotic that's the bacteria. And in this case, it might be not just bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those, and like I was saying, 5 to 20% have adverse reactions. Those adverse reactions are brutal. And people often get multiple symptoms. And I'm going to read you this list. It's a brief list. There's countless more.
Take a breath, people.
But yeah, here we go. All right. So peripheral nervous system problems like tingling, numbness, prickling, burning pain, pins and needles, electrical or shooting pain, skin crawling sensations, tremors, spasms, central nervous system problems. This one's the best. Dizziness, malaise, weakness, impaired coordination, nightmares, insomnia, headaches, agitation, anxiety, panic attacks, disorientation, impaired concentration or memory, confusion, depersonalization, hallucination, and psychosis.
Yeah, I remember the commercial.
Musculoskeletal problems, muscle pain, weakness, soreness, joint swelling, pain, tendon ruptures. So this is actually, this is
getting worse.
Yeah, this is the black box warning that's on Cipro now, and it's for Achilles tendon ruptures, meaning people would just be sitting at their desk and their Achilles tendon would just explode.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
What is making that contract or that's insane. There are demons in this, basically.
Yes. Okay. So problems with your senses, diminished or altered visual or olfactory or auditory functioning, tinnitus, cardiovascular problems, so tachycardia, shortness of breath, hypertension, chest pain, skin, rash, swelling, hair loss, intolerance to heat or cold, gastrointestinal.
So my Achilles tendon ruptured. I'm having a heart attack and my hair is falling out. Get me to an ER quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm passing out just from you reading the list. Continue.
It goes on. It goes on.
Of course.
We'll just leave it there. Now, the severity of these reactions, they range from mild to permanent. So there are people out there who took these antibiotics, they never knew the difference. They're just like, whatever, I'm fine. There are also people who took these antibiotics once and they are now complete basket cases.
Oh my God.
And what differentiates these people who react or don't react, they don't know. They don't know until you take it. And like I said, adverse reactions are like 5 to 20% of people, which is quite a large range for a drug adverse reaction rate. So what makes that range that tough to kind of get an accurate number is that people get these antibiotics at a time when they're often very sick. So like if you have a hospital stay and then afterwards you get a rash and some swelling and insomnia, that's often going to get chalked up to whatever you were in the hospital for the first place. Right. Not only that, people sometimes experience delayed reaction to these antibiotics. So sometimes weeks, months, or even years later, they will have issues. Yeah. So when the FDA added the black box warning to Cipro, they noted that tendon ruptures.
First of all, I'm sorry. What exactly is a black box warning?
So black box warning is when the FDA tells the drug company, you need to put this black box warning on there. And it's basically...
Is it a black box?
It's an actual black box that says something that's very
it's
bad.
It's got like a picture of skull and crossbones or
yes.
something. Okay.
It's like, hey, this is really bad. Make sure they know this going into it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when they put that black box warning on Cipro, they noted that tendon ruptures can occur up to a year after taking Cipro.
Oh my gosh.
And many reports say that, patient reports say that they experienced new symptoms of Cipro toxicity years after taking the antibiotics, which makes it tough to nail down just how many people are being affected by these, but it's probably a lot. Some people also experience a threshold reaction. So the best description of this I came across was from a patient report, and it reads as follows. So on April 15, 2013, I was prescribed Avalox. I had been on this drug many times for chronic sinus infections. This time was different. Within 10 minutes of the first dose, I went into anaphylaxis. I stopped breathing, had numerous convulsions, and 2 grand mal seizures. Since that day, I have suffered with seizures, convulsions, tremors, debilitating fatigue, muscle weakness, vision loss, severe neuropathic pain, vomiting, nausea, lack of appetite, tendon and vein problems.
What's the downside, though?
So you get that, a threshold reaction. You could be taking it, and then all of a sudden you're over some point of badness.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And if that wasn't enough, a lot of times corticosteroids will make the reaction to fluoroquinolones worse. And so corticosteroids and antibiotics, it's basically like a fix anything kind of treatment, meaning if you go into like a 24-hour emergency clinic, you have inflammations and signs of an infection. If no diagnosis is obvious, corticosteroids and antibiotics are like what you'll get in general. I mean, that can be a cofactor in making fluoroquinolones worse. But what I really want to kind of stress, if I haven't stressed it enough, is just the severity of the reaction that comes from these things. I mean, I read one sufferer say while doing research, and I think it's true, almost nothing completely breaks your body down like fluoroquinolones while still keeping you alive. Like, a lot of things are worse for you, but they'll kill you. But these just break you down and leave you in this chronic messed up state.
Yeah, like some giant god hand that comes down and waddles you up into a ball and then just releases you.
Right? In 2001, there was a Dr. J.S. Cohen who published an article on fluoroquinolone antibiotics and the severe reaction some people experience while on them. He said, "It's difficult to describe the severity of these reactions. They are devastating. Many of the people in my study were healthy before their reactions. Some were high-intensity athletes. Suddenly, they were disabled, in terrible pain, unable to work, walk, or sleep."
Well, guess who's canceling their Cipro party this weekend? Oh boy, am I embarrassed.
Yeah. So I have one more patient report that I'm going to read. It was pretty hard hitting. It came from this guy, David. I've edited some of the non-pertinent parts out about treatment details and kind of cleaned up his language a little bit, but here it is. This is the last one. All right. So, permanent CNS damage, shingles, Sjogren's, Raynaud's, plaque psoriasis, drug-induced lupus for over 6 years following a course of Cipro. None of these will ever completely resolve. The molars on my right side of my jaw are now all crowned or cracked from clenching my teeth in my sleep from the pain. I have awakened several times with a mouthful of broken tooth fragments. Sleep deprivation and continuous neuropathy are the norm. Pain management drugs like Dilaudid, Neurontin, Tramadol made me even sicker, so I have learned to tolerate more pain than I would ever have believed possible. Thank you, VA, and thank you, Bayer. This will no doubt eventually kill me. I'll ignore the wrong pain and pay the price. Things hurt that shouldn't and don't that should. I have had shingles in my eye and heart more times than I can count. If I went to the ER for every pain, I would soon be the boy who cried wolf with no credibility and mountains of bills. I take special forms of magnesium and vitamin C, which helps with symptoms. Now, instead of waking up every hour to hour and a half, I only wake up every 3 to 4 hours most nights. Sometimes I even sleep for 5 straight hours. What a blessing. When the pain index is up, even the magnesium doesn't help much. Permanent CNS damage is exactly that. The fluoroquinolones cross the blood-brain barrier to directly attack the brain, which cannot heal itself. The worst part of this is that 1 year after this all started, I went to my doctor for another problem. I shared my suspicions about a Cipro cause of my symptoms and syndromes with my doctor, and he not only ignored me but referred me to another doctor who put me on another course of Cipro, which just made it all even worse.
Sounds like a bit of a complainer, this guy. Oh, man,
I love how like we're getting into like really rough stuff and you like make light of it, but when we're getting into like not so rough stuff, you make like even worse of it, you know?
You just pretty much described me.
I love how you do that. It's like, yeah, this was terrible, and you're like, it's not a big deal. What a complainer.
Just kind of a baby, you know?
He's a wuss, man.
That's weird that 4-year-olds can write that well, but yeah. I don't know. No, yeah. That's amazing.
It's pretty rough there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So if you have been on Cipro or one of these other fluoroquinolones, there are some symptoms that we tend to explain in other ways, but are actually from the antibiotic. So this also goes into like these not being reported. So for example, if you don't recover as fast after exercise, but you kind of think you're just getting a little older, you know? Like, I'm just getting a little older.
How the heck can you tell? I mean, it could be anything causing this, especially if the delayed reaction 3 years later with a ruptured Achilles tendon. You're not going to go, that's Cipro 3 years ago, dang it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is insane to me, the lingering effects of this.
I know. And a lot of these things, like, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. Like, if you start getting small twitching here and there, like an eyelid, but you think you're just tired, or if you get like mild itching at night, that kind of travels around, and you just think, it's like new clothes or new deodorant or something like that. Like there's all these little symptoms that are from Cipro and are maybe a sign that taking them again would be a really bad idea.
But people aren't even aware that they're having these reactions as a result of that, which is the startling thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, is that basically all these little things, you have like little throbbing pains for a few seconds, they go away, and you just kind of like, it's no big deal.
You're like, I did get out of the car kind of funny today.
Exactly. You just explain it away.
Totally.
It's work stress or something like that. So, but if you've taken these fluoroquinolones, a light bulb should go off in your head to never do that again.
Right.
However, if these antibiotics are used correctly, they can be life-saving in a couple cases. For example, if someone has anthrax or life-threatening pneumonia, Cipro can save your life. So again, risk-reward, right? If you got anthrax, you just go for it.
Yeah. Roll the dice.
Just go for it. But yeah, if you don't have that, like if you have a urinary tract infection, there's much better options. Much better options than Cipro. There was a recent New York Times article that talked about fluoroquinolones, which was, I thought, pretty awesome. They expressed this kind of risk versus reward really well. So they said, fluoroquinolones are known to have various side effects, including tendon rupture, tears in the heart, aortic rupture, and nerve damage. And then this doctor guy says, this adds to a long list of rare but serious events that happen with fluoroquinolones, said Dr. Mayar Etminan, an associate professor of ophthalmology at the University of British Columbia.
He's good.
These drugs should be reserved for situations where nothing else can be used and the benefits outweigh the risks. So I think that's a good description.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And how to use them. Personally, I would refuse to use them unless it was something like anthrax or life-threatening pneumonia. I actually put this little card in my wallet that has like the medications I use and my allergies in case, some emergency happens to me, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And like the medics, they'll look through your wallet. And so it has like the insulins I use and then my 2 medical allergies, which are Tylenol and fluoroquinolones.
Oh my God.
I put on there because I don't want these.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's pretty much it.
That's incredible, man. And it's alarming.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can watch out for and really maybe save yourself from pain.
But it's probably a good idea anytime you're prescribed an antibiotic to do some research on it, I would imagine, before you start taking it.
Definitely.
Or anything really prescribed to you.
Totally. I do. Whenever somebody prescribes me something, I go look up online what it does and side effects and everything about it.
Well, that man told me to take it, and he had a stethoscope, and he had some papers on the wall, so now I'm going to take it.
But that's what this show's all about.
Yeah.
So
this little information. So I'm going to put in the show notes a lot of these sources where I got this stuff from. And if you're interested, there are Facebook groups with tens of thousands of people talking about the best way to get over these symptoms.
Okay.
So, that one guy mentioned like magnesium and vitamin C. Those are good options, but there's some other stuff on people trying to get over this. There's also websites. There's one called Floxy Hope, which has a lot of good info. But yeah, there's just a ton of links. So
I like it, man.
Yeah, man.
I'll just give a quick update too, because I was out with a concussion last week.
Yeah, I didn't mention what happened to you last week. I just said you were out. So
I got clogged on the old nogger. So I'm doing fine. Had a follow-up. I'm good to go, but it was...
So you hit your head?
I did.
Were you you were like lifting something or?
I was actually trying... I was pulling toilet paper out of the shed.
Oh.
And there was a black widow about an inch from my face where I was under this cabinet.
Oh, wow.
And then I came up and hit the cabinet at full speed. Like, I don't think I've ever moved that fast, but it clobbered me right so on the edge of this metal cabinet and just knocked me silly.
And you had a concussion?
I did.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I went to work, and about 15 minutes into looking, at work, we were doing the radio show, and I looked down at my feet, and I have flip-flops on. I walked all the way to work.
You
and I had blood still streaming down my neck, so I was trying to stop that.
No, you walked to work with blood streaming down your head in flip-flops.
I walked to work because I live so close to work, jumped the fence in flip-flops, got into the store in flip-flops, walked around for 15 minutes in flip-flops without realizing I was in flip-flops.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and then I passed out a couple times. They had to carry me to the car, and CAT scan came back fairly clean, all good, and minor concussion.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
All better.
I mean, that's kind of funny.
As better as I was, I guess.
I mean, that's kind of funny walking to the store in flip-flops. And
I'm glad I had clothes on.
Yeah, right?
So I could have.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry, dude.
No, man. That's how we learn.
That sucks.
Not to keep our toilet paper in the shed.
Yeah. All right.
Or just be smart.
Yeah. I need a podcast host, man. Try not to hit your head too much more.
I will not. I'm always been a little punch drunk, but let's not do that again.
Let's not do that again. Cool, man.
Thanks, brother.
I'll feel better.
I will. You too. Have a great week.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And let's see. anything we should say before we get off? Thank you, everybody, for listening so much. If you're shopping through Amazon, feel free to use our link on the website. And help us out. Share it with other people. That's always a big help just to get it out there. We're trying to get good information together. So
teach those grandmas how to use the machine so they can get on here, because grandmas love us.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Be well.